Hello, everybody. Delighted to have you on board and welcome to the Wine with Jimmy channel. I'm your host, Jimmy Smith, and welcome to a series here for those of you studying the WSET Level 4. That's the challenging but enjoyable diploma. This is the D3 section, Wines of the World, the big one, and this is Northeast Italy. Series 1 on Trentino, and we are on part 2 of 5 for Trentino, looking at the growing environment, viticulture, and also an introduction to grapes. So if you have any comments, questions, or concerns during this video, then please get in touch by commenting on this video below. Make sure you click like and subscribe. Parts 3 that follow on, and 4 and 5, will only be available over at my e-learning portal. That's www.winewithjimmy.com. Over on that e-learning portal, you'll have access to lots of other helps to get you through your examinations, lots of resources to get you through your challenging examinations. So things like flashcards, short written answer questions, those kind of things. And of course, lots of exclusive video content. Social media is also found at the bottom of every slide if you are that way inclined. So a little bit on the growing environment. Of course, we have quite a fascinating growing environment as we go from Trentino into Alto Adige. Whilst being in the north of Italy and in sight of the Alps, Trentino is still classified as a moderate continental climate, but it will have cooling influences, of course, that come from the alpine areas. So we would say that it's continental with alpine influences. The daytime summer temperatures can be very high, due to its continentality, but also due to the mountains that provide protection from cold north winds. So you have this wonderful area here, which is almost like a big amphitheater. You've got mountains around it. It really does trap the heat in summer very, very well. Alto Adige to the north is one of the sunniest parts of Italy, and Trentino is not too far off from that. Here is a bit of a sort of a 3D map of the area. Now, this is actually looking, we're looking northwards. You'll notice the bottom left of this map is Lake Garda. The area, the valley of Trentino, and you'll see the capital here of Trento, is on the Adige River that runs right through here. And yeah, we've got a lot of our vineyards that are situated, along the Adige, but also going to small little valleys. We have going up to the Camorra up here, and we have the Vallegano up here in this area, and we all the way up to the north where we have the Campo Rotagliano as well. So we have a lot of sort of vineyards dotted around this zone. But what I want to show you is, in fact, there is an effect from the Lake Garda. So Lake Garda has a moderating presence. And it is because it's the largest lake that we find in Italy across the northern Italian lakes. So very significant. It's hugely visited by lots of tourists from places like Austria and Germany and France, because it is really, as you head south, the first big mass of water before hitting the Mediterranean. We call the wind that comes off Lake Garda the Ora del Garda. And this is a generally cool wind, or it has a cooling influence, and it reduces the overall humidity inland during summer. Okay, it actually has quite a positive effect in winter, but it's a moderating effect. So summer, it has this cooling effect. And this is because it blows every day during daylight hours, when of course it's the warmest, and it has this kind of breezy effect. Heat will build up on the valley floors during the growing season, so in areas all the way along here. So from the Rotagliano plain to Trento and down, we'll find a lot. The big blue arrow here is just to depict the cooling effect of Lake Garda. This is in fact the Lake District, I suppose you would call it, the Val de Laghi of Trentino. where you actually have real good production. Cantino Toblino is found here, and some really wonderful wines. Certainly, Vino Santo is very famous from this area. We'll talk about that later. So what else here do we need to talk about? So there are quite distinctive differences between the day and night temperatures. So the diurnal range is very significant. And this is something which causes great acidities within the wines, having these very cold nights. And that's further compounded by the cold air that comes down from the mountains at nights as well. So what we have here is wonderfully warm summer days, but then the vineyards get brilliantly refreshed during the night because the temperature drops considerably due to the influence from the cold air coming down from the mountains. Now, what does this do for our grapes? Well, it enables acidity to be kept in the grapes, but it also prolongs the growing season. Meaning that grapes grow very gently over a long period of time, which actually allows flavors to intensify, and also with red varieties able to ripen and fully ripen and polymerize tannins, so giving you a lot of structure in that instance. Many vineyards are, of course, found on slopes here, and that's, of course, because we are going into the Prealps. We are in the Prealps, so we'll find that apple production tends to be on the valley floor, and as we go into the slopes, we find vineyards. For this reason, a lot of vineyards are tended to by hand pruning, for example, all the way up to hand harvesting. Larger cooperatives will have access to plains where machine harvesting will happen, but many vineyards are found on slopes, and hand harvesting, of course, is common. Our last slide here is to really look at an introduction to the grapes. Then on the following video, part 3, we'll actually drill down into the specifics of the key local grapes found here. Now, 75% of vineyard land is in fact planted to white grapes. So therefore only 25% for black. The maximum yields here tend to be quite high. Dependent on the variety, whites are generally at around 100 hectolitres per hectare and reds at around 90 hectolitres per hectare. This can lead to some low intensity wines, but there are a big variety of grape varieties found here. The overarching DOC is called Trentino DOC. In fact, on this label here, you see Trentino and then Denominazione di Origine Controllata, DOC. So Trentino DOC. Now, the Trentino DOC allows 10 white varieties to be bottled as single varietal white wines, and 9 black varieties as single varietal wines as well. So 19 different grape varieties in play for the Trentino DOC. Please try not to get this confused with Trento DOC. Trento DOC is for traditional method sparkling wines. Trentino DOC is for the still wines of the area. International varieties are widely grown, and of course we talked about this on the first presentation. Pinot Grigio is the leading variety. Chardonnay comes in at second. These numbers, by the way, are probably slightly different to the pie chart I showed you last time around, but they're quite close. These two are neck and neck in terms of production numbers, but also things like Müller-Thurgau, Pinot Bianco, Riesling, Sauvignon Blanc, Gewürztraminer, and black varieties like Merlot, Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, and Pinot Noir. But the region is probably most interestingly home to a range of local grape varieties. And the most important ones we're going to go through on the next presentation. But of course, we find the varieties like Teroldego. So that is one that typically has this wonderful complexity. So it's coming in at the leading black variety on this chart, but powerful, the Prince of Trentino it is called. Marzamino, which tends to be more sort of lighter and aromatic with peppery notes to it. Lagraine is not found on this list, but we find it as well. They're all actually closely related to each other. So Teroldego, Marzamino, and Lagraine. Okay, so that brings me to the end of part 2. Please join me for the next section, part 3, as we talk about those key grape varieties, Teroldego, Marzamino, for example, giving you good information about each of those to get you really excited about going and trying these varieties. Once again, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you can get in touch with me here at Wine with Jimmy. Please do so by commenting on this video below. Of course, if you are one of these people obsessed with social media, you can use the social media handles at the bottom of every slide. And of course, if you do find yourself in wonderful rolling hills of Old Blighty here in the United Kingdom, do come to see me at one of my establishments, potentially for a class, maybe a glass, but probably most likely a bottle. I've been Jimmy Smith. Ciao for now. Thank you.